Weeby.
David.
Weeby.
I let that pause go. I think it's a clockwise situation, Andrew.
Sorry, I'm not even in the StreamYard thing right now, so I couldn't even see what you were.
I wasn't either, but I heard the pause after Doyle, and I was like, "Oh, that sounds like me."
Yeah, I did the same. I was like, "I'll fill this." Okay, you
ready?
go.
David.
Calen.
I'm sitting out, guys.
Oh, from New York, you are listening to Extra Time, driven by Continental. From my apartment in Brooklyn, I'm Andrew Weeby with my partners in soccer, David Goss, Matt Doyle, Calen Carr. Happy Thursday, everybody. It is May 28th. I know we haven't done those reminders of late, but it's probably best to get back to that as the days, the weeks, the month now drag on. Boys, how's it going? Doyle, are you already on a beach somewhere? Like, do you want to take off the undershirt, let it all hang out? What's going on here?
I'm one day away from getting rid of the t-shirt. No, I mean this is my vacation wear. I'm going on vacation, guys. This is it.
Nice. What are you gonna do? Like, make a Mai Tai and put on some tropical music? What are you thinking?
We actually are going to get a jug of grapefruit juice and mezcal because we're going to crush some palomas for the next 2 weeks. There's a state park down the street. People have been very good about social distancing, so we are going to go lay in the grass and look at the East River and pretend that we're in Cabo. That is my next 10, 12 days. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sounds lovely.
Yeah, you look like Tommy Bahama. I mean, it's like everything
this
about
that. This is literally a Tommy Bahama shirt.
Oh, perfect.
It was either Tommy Bahama or Hilo Hatties, and I figured let's go with Tommy Bahama.
Shameless plug.
Hilo Hatties, but I kept back. So.
There you see. He's trying to get a sponsorship right now for his 10-day vacation. I'm off to California on Saturday. It's not a vacation, but we'll be changing some locale here for Extra Time. Just on my part, not for you guys. Let's go. Big show today here. We are narrowing the greatest team of all time bracket down to final four. So basically today is Modern Powers, 2019 LAFC. We know them very well. 2018 Atlanta United. We know them very well against DC original dynasty teams, 97 and 98. Now, the fans all went modern day, which should surprise nobody. So you already have a vote for LAFC and Atlanta United. We'll see if we agree. We already know where Doyle mostly stands on those teams. So we'll get to that. We're also going to do our favorite MLS Cup Playoff memories today because it's Audi MLS Cup Playoff week here at MLSsoccer.com, which I'm sure you noticed because everything is plastered top to bottom. Playoffs. I had a really good time on Wednesday.
About the playoffs?
Yeah, we're talking
playoffs.
Playoffs.
Let's go.
Yes. I had a great time on Wednesday with Dom Oduro and Nick Hagland and Stephen Beitasher doing the second leg of the 2016 Eastern Conference Championships. You remember it well, the bonkers Montreal-Toronto Canadian Classique that Toronto pushed on from and then got 0 shots in the final and lost to the Sounders. That reference was just for you, Anders.
Thanks for dropping me from that broadcast, by the way.
I got called in late, man. I got called in late, and it was between you and Dom Oduro, and I had to make a trade.
Not the first time I've been traded for Dom Oduro, by the way.
Well, I don't know.
It's a select group, you know.
Calen, when you get traded for Dom Oduro, do you receive pizza in the city that you end up in? Like this is residual Papa John's from the city you then go to, get delivered to your doorstep?
I don't think so, actually. That would have been nice. I would have taken that. Yeah. Dom, 2011. And he went on. I remember I had a concussion, and he went on and just would not stop scoring goals for Chicago. It was like madness. Every week he was just banging in goals. And I know Dom pretty well, and I like him, but I was like, yo, dude, can you slow down a little bit? Like, I'm going to get healthy first. But then we knocked them out of the playoffs. So, you know.
Oh, there you have it. And we have a good mailbag here. Here's a hint for you. Nathan Hale, Nino1 on Twitter, said, why does either David Goss or Doyle always chuckle or laugh in the background when you guys talk FC Cincinnati? And I don't know. I can't figure that one out. So we'll save the hefty stuff for the mailbag.
That sounds like something that's done in post.
Yeah.
It sounds like something that's edited in because that would never be real.
That sounds like an Anders thing.
Yeah.
It's definitely an Anders thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Before we get there, look, the current event stuff, no updates on MLS return to play from us. We're sure that you, again, like us, are following the coverage closely. There is a little bit of news team by team. DC United back in individual training on Friday. That means the only teams that have yet to start individual training are the Chicago Fire and the San Jose Earthquakes. Meanwhile, NWSL, the National Women's Soccer League, they're back. They announced players on Wednesday for the 2020 NWSL Challenge Cup. That's going to be in Utah, played at Zions Bank Stadium, and then the semifinals and the finals at Rio Tinto. Those facilities, as we all know, shared by Real Salt Lake, NWSL's Utah Royals FC, and then the Real Monarchs in USL. There's no fans on these. The matches are going to be streamed on CBS All Access. The opener and championship game also going to be on CBS, and it's sort of the same that we've been hearing rumors about MLS, where there's a group stage to start, that determines seeding, and then you go into a knockout round tournament. This is slated to start on June 27th, so they will be the first U.S. team sport to return. Meanwhile, across the pond, news dropped this morning, EPL is back on June 17th, and of course, we've all been watching the Bundesliga. So we'll talk about Americans in the Bundesliga here in just a little bit, but let's start with this. Before we get to greatest team of all time bracket, let's start favorite playoff moments. I was asked to do my top 10 on MLSsoccer.com, which I duly did. And I only limited it to games or moments or happenstance that happened when I was invested in this league, when I was paying attention. So 2006 on. I've got a laundry list, but before I reveal what mine is, I want to go around to you guys. And Doyle, since you've got the longest institutional memory, let's just call it that. How about you get us started? What is your favorite playoff moment? It can be on the field. It can be off the field. It can be a quote. It can be a beef. It can be anything you want. What is it?
I mean, you almost have to rule out the game winner from the original MLS Cup, because that was such a spectacle. It was in front of 40,000 people in Foxborough, but it was a torrential rain/sleet storm. And it was a wild game because the field couldn't handle it. Like, the game probably shouldn't have been played, but it was. Chris Armas scored the first goal. Then LA go up 2-0. I think Tanque Hurtado had the second goal. And then DC had this wild set-piece comeback, and Eddie Pope gets the winner, a golden goal in extra time. Nothing. I don't think anything's going to top it, because it was like the exclamation point at the end of the original season of MLS, and it mattered. Like, it mattered that much. Off the field, I can stick with DC. I mean, they can't hold us back. Everything that happened around that series against the Red Bulls in 2012, and it was just like, to watch it play out the way it did, and to have Bill Hamid rightfully sent off, then Kenny Cooper converts the penalty, but it's whistled back because of encroachment. Joe Willis saves the second penalty. DC's down a man, then Rafa Marquez gets a stupid red card, and it ends up being 10v10. Nick De Leon scores, and then the Red Bulls have a last second stoppage time chance to tie it up, and Thierry Henry standing over the free kick, and Roy Miller takes it and puts it 30 rows deep, and Bill Hamid loses his mind both in the locker room and then on social media afterwards, tweeting at Kyle Martino. Like, everything about that.
Time out. Who? Kyle Martini.
Kyle Martini.
Kyle Martini. And by the way, you're slow playing the best part of all this, which is that Hurricane Sandy delayed everything and made them flip-flop the games.
Right.
And then after the first game, they try to play the game at Red Bull Arena, and there's a blizzard. They can't play it. They try to shovel it. Ben Olsen's in, the shots from NBC at this time in this series were incredible, because I remember sitting there watching Ben Olsen argue with, I want to say it's Lino and all these different executives at MLS being like,
wasn't the commissioner shoveling?
Yeah, it's like, we can play this game. This game can be played. And meanwhile, Hans Bacca's like, don't play the game. We can't play this game. Why would anybody ever play this game? And there are 350 DC supporters up in the stands. They try to shovel it. They can't get it done. And then the Red Bulls players dip, and the DC players go and basically party in the stands with their that. The entire series was incredible, from Hurricane Sandy disrupting everything to then a blizzard. I mean, it was just tear your hair out. What's happening here? How did all this happen at the same time in the same series with two rivals? And then you add the on the field stuff. I mean, the Roy Miller thing is still one of the best moments. It's just unbelievable.
Played yesterday for Saprissa. Soccer's back.
Yeah, that's right.
Still doing his thing.
I do want to, obviously the double post game is incredible. Obviously, the Dairon Asprilla game in 2018, the second leg of that Portland-Seattle series is incredible. But one that everybody's kind of forgotten about is, do you remember the Montreal playoff game where they painted the size of the 18 incorrectly? Like, I still can't there have been some great playoff moments in my headcanon. That is one of them. That absolutely qualifies as a great playoff moment.
They were talking about that on this MLS Classics remix we did yesterday, because we did like 2. So leg 1 was the 3-2 win by Montreal, and they went up 3, and then Toronto stormed back. But yeah, that game got delayed, and it reminds me, it's like a similar moment in my mind to the Zarek Valentin away goals, explain it to the Timbers moment, where everybody's kind of in a circle on the field. And like I remember the pregame, the referee's standing there, and it's like they're pointing and gesturing, and they're like, yeah, no, it's not the right size. It's not the right size. And you, like Nick Hagelin and Steven Badischer, maybe they were just yanking our chain. Maybe they were just trying to get at Dom Oduro on the stream yesterday, but they were like, come on, Dom, you guys knew that was going to happen. Come on, man. That was part of the pregame sort of like chain yanking in this rivalry between the two of us. You know, maybe in Quebec, you know, the measurements are different. Metric system, faulty ruler, I don't know. That was an awesome moment. I love that entire series. I think it's arguably the best in MLS history. Maybe those early LA Quakes comeback, maybe that's up there.
Yep.
But in my mind, I had to limit it to ones that I was invested in. Dave, what were you invested in? What was the one that you were just like, oh, God, this hit me in the core?
Well, when you asked us before, I'd say my oldest MLS playoff memory is Freddie Adu placing a penalty kick in the top corner in a PK shootout in his first year in MLS. So he was 14. And I remember like watching on TV and being like, whoa, Pele, this kid's the best player in the world.
Just
and I stand by
his,
that.
Just chugging a Sierra Mist. Like, oh, God, the refreshing taste.
May 28th, 2020, David still stands by that. And then I think my first game that I went to was Revs Metro Stars 2005. Charlie Joseph, Yuri Djorkaev, Mato Guevara, those teams.
Are you talking about the Cano Smith game?
Yeah. Well, the Cano Smith game was the second leg, I think.
Yeah.
Yep. Which I was in New York. And then I would say from being at the like old best memory I have is probably 2014. The Revs Red Bull Conference Finals of just RBA was packed. Teal Bunbury with that wild goal. And then I traveled up because I just graduated. So I went back up to Boston Thanksgiving weekend. You were there at Weeby, I know. And like, I don't know, Gillette was 40,000. They won. They went to MLS Cup. Everyone was going wild. That was a lot of fun. And then
wait, did Charlie pay you to say that?
Yeah, but now is my Dynamo mention because Calen promised me an episode of The Movement about me. And then I would say the other one is the double post of like, that felt like one of the first moments where like the playoffs got organized where we could all watch everything at the same time. And it all happened on the same night. And I remember just everyone in MLS circles watching that game and just the insanity that was the whole game, but especially the double post moment and of just like single elimination. Like this is what happens. MLS makes no sense. So yeah, those are some of the ones that popped in my mind.
Now, how about somebody who actually played in a playoff game? You've been quietly listening to us list our memories here, Calen.
I've been trying to think, should I pick ones that I've like played in and around?
I mean, everybody can agree that the best moment in playoff history is the first goal of the 2012 MLS Cup. Everyone can agree with that.
Top of the list for like 30 people, yeah, who are all my tickets at the match that day.
You got 30 tickets? Wow. I mean,
yeah.
You're throwing it around that day.
Yeah, I'm still broke. I'm still trying to make it back. If any of those people, if they're listening, Venmo me. I need that back now. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, the 2002 Quake series, the incredible comeback versus the Galaxy, I think was a cool moment because a guy I played with, Chris Ronier, at Berkeley, who was like the first guy that I had seen from Berkeley to go on and play professionally, scored a massive goal in that comeback. And so that was a pretty cool one. I was in college at the time. And then for me, I just did a video with the Chicago Fire on my top 5 moments with the club. And one of them was my first playoff start. And it was at RFK, second leg, Eastern Conference semifinal against DC United. And just like RFK, I could go on and on about how much I love that place. It's just sweaty, disgusting, just they had the little bathroom right by the pitch in the dugout that was just too disgusting to go to. So you'd have to walk an extra like 40 yards to go to the one in the back because it just wasn't worth it. And just the sideline, the crowd just bumping up and down. I was playing right mid. And it was my first start. It was my first time that Juan Carlos Osorio gave me a chance to really gave me the trust to go and get out there, and ended up with 2 assists in the first half, and we advanced. And it was just, I think, the first time that I think for me, like I had a bunch of injuries that kind of derailed a lot of the things that I had set forth for myself in the regular season, but the playoffs were always a time that I was like, okay, I know what I'm doing here. I can get this done. And that game gave me a lot of confidence to know that I was able to play at that level and in those bigger moments. So that one stands out for me.
It's a good one. I like that one. I'm going to throw one out here, and we haven't mentioned it here, but it goes back to, I believe, was this 2016 or was it 20? I think it's 2017, actually. The tunnel fight in Toronto.
Yeah, I was
like,
there for that.
What an incredible, crazy, awesome moment that was. And like, if it was between, the fight itself is incredible, but if it wasn't just like the protagonists of like US soccer, whether it's like Josie or Sasha or Tyler Adams being in the mix, and then in the hallway, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? Like Greg Vanny just screaming in Jesse Marsh's face, and John Conway waiting in here. I guess that's Canadian soccer, but I digress. I mean, that whole moment, the red tinting, like just it had everything. It was just such a perfect moment.
And when I think of the playoffs, I think of Toronto of the second, since I've covered MLS, because we've all been up there during their cup finals and it's just freezing cold. And I was up there as well for the run. So that Montreal series, I was at the second leg in that one. And it was that was probably the most entertaining, exciting atmosphere game. Took over the city of Toronto as well. That whole lead up, the fans. Like the atmosphere at that match specifically, I've never seen anything like it. It was like, I know I would say like maybe the only other thing that was close in a different way was the MLS Cup in Atlanta, where I was kind of like, oh my God, like this is like unlike any MLS Cup that I've been a part of or seen. It was just otherworldly, but it was just, I think that was due to the size and but the Toronto atmosphere, I felt like, in those playoffs in the cold, and getting that home field advantage. I thought those atmospheres throughout in Toronto were awesome.
One of the best atmospheres, I'd say, for a playoff game, because I think of the weather and the way it's built, is Crew Stadium. MLS Cup 2015, although it ended, the atmosphere was affected quite quickly. They played Toronto in the Eastern Conference Finals in 2017. And I was there for leg one, and people was like amazing, pulling, TFC back and forth. And just like the way that place gets cold, and the fans pack in, and you can feel, even just not being a part of a team, like the hostility against the team that's there, is one of the special things. But I would say, I think I've said this on the show before, the Canada for 2016 MLS Cup was like one of those moments where I was like, this league has shifted in my mind. And obviously other people had experienced that before, but the way that crowd reacted, and as you said, the way the buildup was all week, all 2 weeks, all season, to that moment, it was one of the more special moments in my life.
It's a good shout with the stadium there, because I've been to like a US-Mexico game in Columbus, and for anybody who's been to those, they're really special. And I think as the stadiums get bigger and better for Major League Soccer, and the Crew are going to get their own new stadium as well. There is something really cool about being at kind of, that's what I was talking about with RFK, is being at kind of a I don't know,
it's like a relic,
right? Where
it's like a relic of our history that is inevitably going to be kind of phased out, but you have the honor of being there for one of those big moments, and you may not realize it at the time.
In some ways, it's awesome.
We were there.
I want to bring it back to 2016 for a minute. I was lucky enough to watch that game with Ziggy Schmidt, the MLS Cup, and that was right after he had been fired by Seattle, and it was we all got the chance to work with Ziggy, and we all know he was a great guy, and he was a soccer junkie, and one of the best things about him, from my point of view, was that it didn't matter who he was. He just wanted to talk soccer. He would watch anything. He would talk about it for hours. We would do it in the studio, or we'd go out, afterwards and have a beer or two. But at that game itself, I was able to watch it with Ziggy, and after the final whistle, after the penalty shootout, and Seattle won, you could see he was happy. But he also was like, dropped 2 F-bombs. And he was looking at the Sounders fans with tears in his eyes. And he's like, he said it like to himself, but I was close enough to hear. He's like, I wanted to give this to them so bad. I wanted to be the one. And I like, that'll stick with me until the day I die. That was just on a personal level, like, there's never been a bigger playoff moment for me than that one. And I know Sounders fans all love Ziggy and always appreciated Ziggy. I just think it's important that they hear that story and then they know that he loved them too for the entire time.
I think it's a great story. I remember vividly doing like the pre-podcast with Sig leading up to that game, and just like kind of what you said in the sense of he's just always down. Yep. Like, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter that I didn't play the game or that I'm not, whatever. He wants to know what you have to say, and he's willing to push back on you. But I remember him being on the field afterwards and going to congratulate Schmetzer. And I think one of the best parts about this job for me is not being a part of the moment, but being able to share some of those moments with other people and see how it affects them, kind of the way you're talking about with Siggy Schmidt. There is nothing better than being on a field after a final, after like a conference final or an MLS Cup or a CCL final or a US Open Cup final or whatever it is. There's nothing better than being on that field and just kind of being a fly on the wall. I mean, there's so many of those games that stick out to me, whether it's like seeing the despair on the face of that Red Bulls team that was trying to get a trophy. I was on the field in 16 with the Sounders afterwards because I had to do the react, and just kind of watching them celebrate it and enjoy it and be incredulous at what they had done in that moment. I mean, 2014 conference finals, the Revs. I mean, that was a party. They were giddy. The Crafts were like practically walking on clouds. Like, Jermaine Jones was talking so much mess. Lee Wynn was running around being nuts. I mean, those are the moments to me when I think of the playoffs, of just seeing and not experiencing, because I don't know, I didn't do it, but that joy and the stakes, whether it's the despair or it's the happiness, that are wrapped up in all this for all these people, because that's their profession, that's their obsession, that's what they love. And this was the payoff moment. And it's just, it makes me wistful, man. The playoffs are the best part of the year. 2 dates: opening day, because it means it's back, and then the first day of the playoffs, because it means it's going to be crazy and everybody's going to care that much more. It's a beautiful thing. Any other memories you guys want to throw out there? Anything that's kind of popping up in your head before we hit greatest team of all time? I mean, I'm thinking, what are some of the others I put in here? I put Jimmy Nielsen, 2013 MLS Cup. People don't want us to tell the cold stories anymore, but I just remember being like, how the hell is Jimmy Nielsen doing this? I mean, he looks like he has a walker. This guy can't move, and somehow helping them win the game in PKs. And that was a super memorable one.
I would say the early ones, I think 07 MLS Cup. That was like one of the first ones where I knew everyone on the field. I like understood exactly what was happening. Obviously, I'm a huge Joseph Nguyen fan, one of the greatest strikers in MLS history. That was a big day for me. And 09, I didn't think RSL could win. And I remember being, I think it was in a library streaming the game, and was just pure shock when they won. I didn't think it was possible. The way the Galaxy were and the way the league was and what I understood about it. So those are some other ones that pop out.
Peter Vermees in 1996 with the Metro Stars, and I think it was the first game of that series against DC United. It went to the shootout, and the sideline camera. For whatever reason, there was a scrum with the fourth official about like who was shooting when or whatever, and Vermees grabs the ball and goes, "If I shoot, we win." And then he walks out to midfield, and he limps out to midfield, or 35 yards, places the ball down because he was hurt real bad, and he just limps up and goes and chips the keeper and wins that game. It was very Peter Vermees moment.
That was one of the extra time trivia questions last night. Was who made that? And he also didn't he score? Was it golden goal? I don't know. Either
no,
way,
that wasn't him. That was Adolfo Valencia.
It was the who scored the shootout goal to push the Metro Stars through against DC United. That sounds awesome. Again, something I wish I had experienced. But you guys want to get to it? Greatest team of all time?
I think we already did it.
Did we? It's already
I
done.
felt like that's what we just did.
Oh man, let us, if you have playoff moments that you were there for, remember, or just have a special place in your heart. 401-2060-MLS. Text us on the text line. extratime@mlssoccer.com is the email, of course, and @extratime on Twitter. Get at us. We've had a pretty dry mailbag recently, and I'm not blaming anybody out there. I know these are crazy circumstances, but we always would love to hear from you. And thank you to everybody who's still following along as we're in this sort of strange period, let's say, in this podcast history. Let's get straight to the greatest team of all time bracket, and we'll start with the 1 seed, LAFC 2019 points record. Carlos Vela blowing up the individual record book. They got 59% of the vote against 1998 DC United. That 98 DC team, runners up in MLS Cup. They were champions of Copa Interamericana and champions of the CONCACAF Champions Cup as well. We talk about that all the time. Top goal scorer, Roy Lassiter. This is a team that has Marco Echeverri and Jaime Moreno, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We've talked about it a lot. Bruce Arena, the head coach. We all know, we all have been told via the mailbag that we talk about LAFC either too much or all the time, Doyle. So I think the case here is to make the case for 98 DC. What is the case that they are better than 19 LAFC?
I think that in terms of the body of work over 4 years, nobody's matched what DC United did in 1998. And if you look at the playoffs that year, they did fall short against the Chicago Fire, and they fell short in the exact same way that LAFC fell short. They went up against a team, like a veteran, experienced team that said, we can counterattack DC to death. We can counterattack this attacking juggernaut to death because they will leave themselves exposed. We just have to hold on for dear life. The Sounders did it in 19. The Fire did it in 1998. Obviously, LAFC's goal differential superior. Their single season points total is superior. They have the best player on the field in Carlos Vela. As much as I love Diablo and Jaime Moreno, Carlos Vela is a level above. But if you look at that first 11, really the first 13 on the roster, it's pretty even talent-wise. Like, that DC United is the only old days MLS team that I feel like you could pick them up and just drop them into current MLS whole cloth and they would compete at the very top. So the argument is they did it 3 times in 4 years. The argument is they did it internationally in the CONCACAF Champions Cup and then the Copa Interamericana. The argument is they had Eddie Pope, Tony Sané, Carlos Llamosa, Jeff Agus, Richie Williams. They had both Olsen and Harks this year. This is 1 year that both of those guys overlapped. So they had youth and they had experience. They had guys who would do it internationally for club and for country. And they are the unquestioned best dynasty in MLS history. So I think that, I mean, honestly, this is a toss-up for me. And that ends up giving a lot of credit to LAFC. And it says exactly how good they were, because I didn't think I would get to the point where 98 DC United was a toss-up against anybody.
I think one of the things Doyle said is when you look man for man, like this DC group are guys that you would roll out in 2019 and win MLS Cup with. And you mentioned that back line, like Eddie Pope could have played in both eras, Tony Sané as well. And then you talk about the midfield. Carlos Llamosa, yeah. And then you talk about
Jeff
the midfield
Eggers,
of
for sure.
Harks, Richie Williams, Ben Olsen. We're going to talk 97 and 98. So you have Diaz Arce and you have Lassiter and Jaime Moreno, who did it across multiple eras as well. And then you've got the star in Marco Echeverri. It's really hard. And one of the things that LAFC did last year by not winning in the playoffs, again, was to leave the door open for conversations like this. And we talked about that on Monday, which is if RSL had closed the door more times, they would have been in a different conversation. Winning that final game matters. Winning over the course of full seasons matters as well. So at this point, we're talking about teams that were all good, over the course of regular seasons, and all made it to championships and all that stuff. Doyle's brought up the Copa Interamericana a lot. So I was just going to...
Do your research.
So I did a little research today, and DC United won that in 1998 against Vasco da Gama from Brazil. It was the last time that tournament was ever played. It was created because Europe and CONMEBOL wouldn't let CONCACAF teams into the Intercontinental. So 3 Mexican teams had won it since 1969, America and Pumas. America doing it twice. DC beat a Vasco da Gama team that had won Copa Libertadores that August. So August 26th was the final. This tournament was played on November 4th and December 5th. So it was that same group coming out in 97. Vasco da Gama injected a ton of money specifically to win Copa Libertadores. 10 of the 11 starters from Copa Lib final started against DC United in one or both of the legs of this competition. So this was legitimately the best team in the region. The home game for DC was played at RFK. The away game for DC, oddly, was played at Lockhart Stadium in Fort Lauderdale, which sort of changes it a little bit. And the other piece that I found, which probably takes a little shine off of the victory, which was that Vasco da Gama played in the Club World Cup at the time, which was the Intercontinental Cup, which was against the UEFA Champions League final on December 1st in Tokyo against Real Madrid, and then played the second leg of this competition in Fort Lauderdale on December 5th, 4 days later. So the same exact team started both those games. So that's a pretty long flight to come in and then have to play a DC team that only had to come down about an hour and a half on the plane, which whatever you want to take from that. But either way, as Doyle mentioned, they didn't just win this competition in 98. They also won the CONCACAF Champions Cup at the time. And when you look at this roster front to back, they could beat anyone. But I still think in this conversation, LAFC changed the way you could play and win in Major League Soccer. They did things at a level we've never seen before. In the regular season, they probably had arguably the best performer in MLS history in Carlos Vela. And so for the way they did it and the quality they have, and obviously comparing errors is very tough, I think LAFC nudges ahead in this one. In my head, actually, it was 98 DC against 2018 Atlanta. So all my research was geared there. And then we started this, but it's fine. I can roll it out for 97 as well. So when we move on to the next one.
Like, I think one thing you can't, like, you can give DC credit for winning those competitions, and you absolutely have to. But I don't think it's hard to, in the comparison, because you can't take demerits away from LAFC because they didn't have the opportunity to play them. You know, they had the beginnings of a CONCACAF Champions League run a year later, which would have been counted outside of that 2019 group in a lot of ways because they did have some changes. So it's apples to oranges. It's tough.
I don't know that that's true because LAFC could have qualified in 2018 for the 2019 competition.
Okay.
And the ability of DC to compete on every level, because they also went to an Open Cup semifinal. They also tied for Supporters Shield winner in 98. They went to the MLS Cup final, as well as the 2 other finals. But their ability to compete year in and year out, when Moreno and Echeverri are at Copa America, and Agus is at the World Cup, and Eddie Pope is at the World Cup and Olympics, that is a sign of how great DC was, and LAFC might build that from here on out. But DC started in 96. We're talking about 98. LAFC started in 2017?
Yeah.
2018? 2017. 2018?
18.
Yeah. So it's the same thing where it's, you know, they had an opportunity to get into Champions League if they had performed and win Open Cup, and they didn't do that.
So just to clear up one thing, DC did not tie for the Supporter Shield in 1998. There's a glitch on the standings pages on MLSsoccer.com.
Yeah, I was gonna say they were 10 points back of LA Galaxy.
Yeah, if you go into the car, they were 10 points back.
Yeah, it was the 68-point season for the Galaxy.
Yes,
and this was a 58-point DC team.
In that case, would you not look at what LAFC did? Because that part of it is the head-to-head part is hard, right? Especially between eras, and I could see how tight that would be. But LAFC being so far and ahead of the rest of the league at a time where I think the league is, you know, across, you know, you're going against some the standard I think has risen. How many teams were there in 1998?
12.
12? Okay. So I don't know. That could go either way because those I also sometimes go kind of bristle at the idea that it's gotten so much better across the board because I think it was kind of harder in some ways to get into those teams when there were less teams, although I think there are better players overall. But I mean, just LAFC, what they did in the regular season to be able to go so far and ahead of the rest of the pack, I think is really hard to do, and made what they did so much more impressive. So if there was something that were to, I think that's something you could look at and count towards their case as well.
I think
it is, but and look, I if I had to choose one roster or the other, I would choose LAFC. I also think like what Bruce Arena's done as a coach speaks for itself. I do think Bob Bradley is a better coach. I would trust him to come up with a great game plan to try to eliminate Echeverria and all that. But if you look at it, like this is a tournament style, this bracket that we're doing, right? We're not talking about the best regular season. We're talking about who would win a tournament style game. DC United from 1996 to 1999 won 3 MLS Cups, an Open Cup, the Copa Interamericana, and CONCACAF Champions Cup. How has LAFC done in tournament-style competitions thus far? Do you trust this LAFC team in a tournament-style competition?
I don't know. That feels unfair to me in some ways because, like, it's easy to go back and cherry pick a 4-year period and say, yeah, they won everything. Like LA's only have 2. They've only had 2 years. They've only had 2 years. We're only talking about the 2019
team in MLS history.
We're not talking about the dynasty of DC. We're not talking about the entirety of what they accomplished. We're only talking about this 98 DC United team. That's it.
No,
that's it. That's it. There's a number in front of their name. 1998. That's the way this whole thing works.
From context, and even in that context, they won 2 knockout-style competitions that year anyway. That win against Vasco da Gama might still be the best win any MLS team has had against international competition.
Fair, but LAFC
also, Weeby, when you look at this and say
the champions of South America,
yeah, but they did have an opportunity to play the Sounders. They did have an opportunity to play. Was it the Timbers in the Open Cup?
Yeah,
they didn't get it done.
You also add to it if you're going to say who do you trust on the field in a big game. You're going to calculate the fact that Jeff Agus has performed at this level across all the MLS Cups he played in.
No,
that's
for sure.
Part of what you're doing.
For
so
sure.
You're not just talking about 98. But you're talking about these players and what they're capable of.
But you're talking about that moment in time. Jeff Agus in 98. Not Jeff Agus the entirety of his career. What could he do in an imaginary game? It's 1998 Jeff Agus. Now, look, I think that this LA team, the back line, it goes to DC 100%. It's not even close to me. DC's back line, give it to him. Like between Agus, between Sana, between Yamosa, between Pope, like it's not even a competition to me. And I love Segura. I love Walker Zimmerman. They have good outside backs, do LAFC. But from just like who's the gamers in here? Who's gonna win a game? Who's gonna just like lock it down and not let the other team have anything? I would trust DC more in that scenario. That's why this is so hard. Made it
and you start looking on the other side and you're like,
I know.
Did Vela give some problems to and Jeff's amazing, but he's played center back, outside back. I mean, we've seen what Vela can do to anybody. And so you look at some of those individual matchups, and Big Cat is one of the best in the business. But I agree. If you're going just backline to backline, but when you actually start breaking down the matchups, that's where you start to be like, oh, I don't know. I don't know if it's as that much of a, you can just count on that back line to lock it down against LAFC.
And look, it's fair to say that LAFC bottled it in big games. They've said that they bottled it in big games, but you could also say that this DC team would have been expected to do more in the league and in the cup. Is that not fair?
No,
in Open Cup.
That's not entirely fair. I mean, they like that Fire team that they lost to was really, really good and went on to become arguably a dynasty. And Peter Novak's performance in MLS Cup was incredible. And like as was Zach Thornton's, the first 25 minutes of that game, it was a barrage. Zach Thornton was standing on his head. Sometimes you need a hot keeper and luck.
Sure, but can't you say the same thing about the Sounders? This is a team that won 2 MLS Cups in 3 years, never missed the playoffs.
LAFC has
Nico
no
Ladero
proof
and
that
Raul
they've done it. Weeby, LAFC has zero proof that they've done it. I know that you can we're only talking about November 11th, 1998. We can't talk about anything else. The fact that DC won cups in that year and over the course of it shows that they could do it. I know that we're not allowed to discuss anything else that's ever happened.
I don't disagree with that, but those are 2 cups that didn't exist for LAFC. Like, come on, the Champions Cup is not the same thing as the current CONCACAF Champions League. You cannot tell me that.
But what
and
the point
Interamericana is not the same either. It was the freaking great amazing race for Vasco da Gama. They're crossing half the world.
But the point is, DC won knockout competitions. LAFC has not. Facts.
Okay, so are you going 98 DC?
No, I already picked LAFC a while ago. I just hate when you do the weavy. I'm going to argue in my own circle.
Yeah, I definitely did that. That was intentional. That was intentional. I don't know. My problem is I don't know which way to go on this one, because I agree. The DC, these teams, like from a strictly like head-to-head perspective, if this was a knockout tournament, I would trust. I would feel like I would trust them more, but I feel like that trust might not mean anything because LAFC in an attacking sense has guys that could just rip them open and are younger. Other than like Ben Olsen, like it is an old back line. Some of the, Echeverry, I know he's in the late 20s.
Man, Weeby, you're pushing me to 98 DC.
Perfect. That's exactly what I'm going for here. I'm trying to tear you apart internally.
Jaime Moreno was 25. Olsen was like 21 years old. Richie Williams, 30. I think Harks was the only guy on the wrong side of 30. Eddie Pope was 24. Like this DC team was young compared to the rest of the league.
Who you taking?
Oh, I'm taking DC 98.
Okay, so we have
This isn't the best team of all time. This isn't the best team I've ever seen in MLS. This is who would win. DC 98.
All right, so we have one from the fans for LAFC. We have two for LAFC from Dave. We have DC from Doyle. So it's coming down to me and you, Calen.
Yeah, I'm gonna go DC just to make it hard on you.
I love you, Calen.
I should have jumped in. I should have jumped in here and gone DC to make it hard on you.
From my vacation, Calen. I mean that.
Calen, let me ask you this though: if you had to stop Carlos Vela, you would like to have the ability to tell Tony Sane like just track him and stay tight to him. No one can stop Vela. We know that, but like this is a guy who has a decent chance to stay with him. Probably overpower him in 1v1 scenarios.
There's no one person that's going to stop Carlos Vela. You would have to steal a page from what we saw the successful teams do, which is just to clog the pitch, clog the midfield, starve service, push him as far away from goal, make him play forwards and backwards. Backwards and sideways, and kick him a bit.
Elbow him in the ribs like Seattle did.
Yeah, just lean into him a little bit and make somebody else hurt you. It's the Jordan rules. It's like knock them down. So that's really the only way I think I've seen teams be successful, and LAFCs continue to try and play their way out of it and find the right situations and get them in good spots and get them to receive the ball on the move. But it becomes difficult when the field gets tighter and tighter and tighter. And so I think that DC team, the only way they could even try and hang on to him would any one-on-one versus him or put him on either side is going to be a problem. So I think they would have to take more of a Seattle approach the way they did, but I think that DC team would handle that well. They would be able to do that, and Bruce Arena teams know how to play that way as well.
Yeah, I think they would happily do that. I'm going DC United, so we're moving them along. And the reason is basically exactly what you guys said. I was doing my weeby thing where I just try to rile you up and argue you in circles. But I think it's DC because I don't think that you can put this LAFC team ahead of them based on what they've already admitted, which is that they have not been able to get it done in big games. Like whether it's Zlatan and basically outside of that, a punchless Galaxy, whether it is the Open Cup, whether it is MLS Cup Playoffs, they've been brilliant. What they've done is change this league, both from a transfer perspective and a style of play perspective and team building perspective, but they haven't got it done yet. And so if you haven't got it done and you didn't have a trophy other than the Supporters Shield that year to lean on,
this episode's going to end in chaos. I just want to put this out there. Let me just ask this question.
Sure.
Who would all of you take, 2018 Atlanta or 2019 LAFC?
2019 LAFC.
In a one game, I would take Atlanta.
Yeah, I think I would too.
Interesting. Okay.
Well, we might find that. Well, we would have had a chance to find that out, but I just pushed.
Well, I personally would take this DC group because let's be real, you're switching Diaz Arce for Lassiter between 97 98 over Atlanta 2018, but not over LAFC. So I think that we're either going to end up with DC versus DC or just chaos in general with no consistency.
And
And
wait, are we not?
That's the point of this, right? The point.
Yeah. The
you
entire
guys are just MLS Cup truthers. I didn't realize.
Yeah.
That's my
The
bad.
point of this was
That's
for
my
us
bad.
to like spend a month arguing about things that we can't prove or have any real logic behind. And
What have we done that hasn't ended in chaos so far?
yeah, we're well on our way to that. So let's see if we are going to get chaos, because to face off against 1998 DC United will either be 2018 Atlanta United, who got 63% of the fan vote, or 1997 DC United, who only got 37% of the fan vote. 97 DC United, if you think back, they were MLS Cup, they were Supporters Shield, Eddie Pope's Defender of the Year. You're talking about Jaime and Marco, and as you said, the Magic Triangle, which was Jaime, Marco, and Raul Diaz Arce, all combining in this year. Meanwhile, 2018 Atlanta United, we know this team well. Miguel Almiron, the sort of shining light in midfield, and then Joseph Martinez, goal hungry 24/7, and Darlington Nagbe, and all the way back down the pitch, all these players that are still fresh in our minds. Who's it going to be?
So I would just say part of my thought process in this one, and obviously I thought it was 98 DC versus 2018, but it doesn't matter because I can just shift. It's the same thing. Is I would say this Atlanta team has the least depth of all the teams we're talking about in the end of this competition. They're
bringing a $15 million Argentine youth.
I don't care about money though. They're starting Franco Escobar and a half healthy Greg Garza half the time, and we're talking about teams that are starting Jeff Agus, Tony Sane. We're talking about, I think, AJ De La Garza, who's better than those guys, and a peak Omar Gonzalez. So I would say that this Atlanta team has the top end talent that I don't think anyone else has in this argument. But I again think that in terms of 7 through 13, I would trust almost any other team in this competition. But this Atlanta team won MLS Cup. They also beat a Red Bull team in the playoffs that had set the point record at the time. So they have a lot going for them. In saying that, I don't vote. You guys can continue.
You don't think Darlington Nagbe could make his way into that 98 DC team?
I would say Nagbe's a top 5 player on this team, though. Right? Okay. Who would you rather have? Franco Escobar or Jeff Agus? Greg Garza playing 14 games, or Tony Sane?
Yeah.
Eric Remedi or Richie Williams? Jeff Laurentowicz starting at center back, or Yamosa or Pope?
That's part of it though, right? Like Garza only healthy 15 games, but he was healthy for the playoffs. Escobar has, had his injury issues as well, but when he's been healthy, he's been one of the best right backs in the league.
He's Dyrone Light in the playoffs, man. He's like maybe not even light.
Bringing Barco and Villalba off the bench, not even having to use Miles Robinson, like this.
Well, Miles Robinson had started like 2 pro games at that time.
It's not 2019 Miles Robinson. I'll agree with you on that, Dave. It's not.
We be strict on the years.
I mean,
we've got time.
1997 DC United played Ben Aroja 15 games, right? Completely washed up Roy Wegerle played 17 games. Like John Maisner was a starter. John Maisner's a nice player, but he's not as good as Franco Escobar.
Yeah, so but none of the people you just named started in MLS Cup.
Okay, so we're just talking about MLS Cup then.
No, I'm just saying that's all we're going to talk about with Atlanta.
You're basically talking about the peaks of these teams. I mean, we're not talking about any of these teams when they're in like a low period, which most didn't have a long one, but it's mostly the peak of these teams.
Okay, keep going.
I mean, like if we want to like pick guys out, are we going to put Chris McCann on like a pedestal here? He played a pretty good number of games. Like Mikey Ambrose. Love Mikey Ambrose.
So why? So I don't understand.
Kevin Kratz?
If we're talking about the peaks of these teams, but we're talking about depth at the same time, and then you're referencing MLS Cup. Bruce didn't make a sub in the 1997 MLS Cup.
Fair.
He only used 11 guys.
That is fair.
Incredible.
That is a fair statement.
Not even to waste time.
Not even to waste time against a pretty bad Colorado Rapids team. No offense to Marcelo Balboa and the rest of those guys.
Peter Vermees and Chris Anderson and on and on and on. But yeah.
Yeah. Bad is not the right word, but like an uninspiring Colorado Rapids team. I don't know, man. I think you guys are trying to have it both ways with this one.
How would you have it? How do you think about it, and who would come out on top?
I think the talent differential is non-existent. Just almost the same way that it's almost non-existent for the '98 team versus LAFC. And this '97 DC United team, they won MLS Cup, they won the Supporters Shield, they lost US Open Cup in penalties. This is the closest any American team has ever come to doing the domestic treble. They weren't as good as the '98 team. They didn't have, because like, I love Raul Diaz Arce. He was like Wando 1.0 in his ability to poach and find these seams in the box that nobody else would see. But he didn't, like, the '98 DC team could sit back and crush you on the break because of Roy Lassiter. That's something that the '98 DC team just did not have. The '98 DC, or the '97 DC team didn't have. The '98 DC team had Ben Olsen, who was already an international caliber player. He walked out of college and was able to play at full U.S. men's national team level, and he was a match winner in MLS. The '97 team didn't have that. What the '97 team had was the league wasn't as good. It just straight up wasn't as good in '97 as it was in '98. And the second thing was Moreno and Echeverry that summer had led Bolivia to the Copa America final, which is an incredible accomplishment. It's an absolutely incredible accomplishment. And they proved they were two of the best players in South America. It was a great team, but I think it's also a team that against this Atlanta side would have had to have the ball. And then when you consider how Atlanta played in the playoffs, they were basically a counterattacking, fast-breaking team. I think Atlanta would have figured out a way to get a couple of goals and win this game.
I agree. I would go with Atlanta in this one. And I think when you look at it, part of it also for me does play into having Tata Martino. I think he's one of the best managers we've seen in MLS. And then the top end talent too. I think Joseph Martinez is unlike any player I've ever seen in Major League Soccer. And I just feel like he would, if you want to talk about that DC back line. And I think in some ways, maybe they, as a group, they could handle. We talked about Vela, but I think Joseph would be able to give them a lot of problems in ways that maybe other forwards they played against didn't have to face. Then Miguel Almiron, Doyle did his column on top end talent. Like Miguel Almiron for me was one of the best players to play in MLS as well. And then when you just look at the way they went through the playoffs, I think they gave up one goal throughout the entire playoff run. So defensively, that team really gave up nothing. They went to New York City FC and just kicked them off the pitch. Like they were just had no shame just to go up there, and they'd gone and played this, brilliant sort of counterattacking style. And at times, really, really nice football, and just went up there and were like, we're going to a small pitch at Yankee Stadium. Let's just kick them off the pitch, and then came back and ran away with it. They then stormed through, I think, beat at New York Red Bulls 3-0 in that first leg at home.
Yep.
And Armas, I think, switched the tactics up, and it did not work at all. They didn't press, and then they just went on. And then even in MLS Cup, they kept a clean sheet, shut out, got 2 goals, walked away. So
and that's the clean sheet is a good point here as well, because that DC team, they were okay in goal. That Atlanta United team with Brad Guzan, like, everybody kind of forgets it, but right after it was 1-0, Guzan made a gigantic save.
Yeah, that's
it's just a massive differential between these two. I don't want to say massive. It's a differential between these two teams. One team having a match winner in goal.
Are we disparaging Scott Garlick right now?
Scott Garlick was a good keeper. He was a good keeper. It wasn't Brad Guzan. Okay.
Yeah, I thought you guys made good arguments. Atlanta showed they could do it in big games. They did it against a Red Bull team that was pretty elite. They did it against David Villa as well. Different conditions, different moments. It's not a great Portland team that they beat in MLS Cup, but neither was that Rapids team in '97. So I think pretty much it's all fairly even. And I think what goes to Atlanta is just, I think the league has gotten harder, and they were able to do things at an elite level across 2018, even though they didn't win Supporters Shield. in the league because they still would have set the points record if Red Bulls didn't do it ahead of them. And then they went and beat Red Bull in the playoffs and then won MLS Cup, as you said. So I think this is an Atlanta team that's pretty hard to argue against, although I attempted to. And I think 98 will be an interesting matchup, as I had already prepared for. And I'm ready. We could just record, Mondays right now if you guys want to roll that out there. I'm ready to play pickup. Let's go.
We got to fill time, bro. We got to fill time.
Yeah.
I'm not giving no conversations here. I'm going Atlanta as well. And I think what you said, Calen, about Joseph and Almiron, and also about their ability to kind of shift who they were in that moment to both do it throughout the regular season and be dominant one way, and then when their backs were up against a wall to flip it a little bit and say, actually, we can play a completely different way and be dominant that way too. That's, to me, what takes it over the top. And then I just can't get past Joseph, and then in particular Almiron.
But here's the thing that I agree with I clearly agree. But are we talking about a 22 Almiron that's more dominant than Echeverry was? And are we talking about a player in Joseph who did more things than Jaime Moreno did? And not saying
it's a different kind of dominance, yeah?
It's more dynamic, right? I would say that Echeverry was more dominant in that everything ran through him. But Marco really only had one way to hurt you. He's going to use the ball. Almiron could kill you on both sides of the ball. He could kill you off the ball. He could kill you as a playmaker. He could kill you as a goal scorer.
But he couldn't kill you if teams were sitting deep. He could only kill you in space. They were able to create space. That was that team's problem, was when teams sat in, he wasn't able to pull groups apart.
I don't think that was their problem. They would eventually, they mostly killed bunkers. They mostly killed the bad teams. The only way to beat Atlanta United in 2018 was to press them. That was it. And this DC United team, they weren't a pressing team. Like, pressing wasn't even really a concept 22 years ago. McCat just bit my power supply, right? Ate it.
Wow.
Taquito, what are you doing, buddy?
Taquito's on vacation.
Yeah.
Turn off the podcast.
I don't know if you hear in the background here, but there's something happening in my house. There's it's like a wrestling match of some sort. There's a lot of
create like a best of reel of like bloopers from the show.
Anders, I believe, has been collecting those, so be prepared for some unseemly things to come out. Yeah, he says in the chat that he's already on it. So here's our final four for the greatest team of all time. We've got on one side 2017 Toronto FC, the treble winners, the first to do it, and then they're taking on 2014 LA Galaxy. And on the other side, we've got 1998 DC United against 2018 Atlanta United. Does this feel right to everyone before we move on? Does this feel like the right final four?
I think 2019 LAFC, maybe over that 2014 Galaxy side. But
here goes Doyle. He's going to complain about the seating for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a seating problem with the 2018 Red Bulls. But these are four of the six best teams in MLS history. 2018 Red Bulls and 2019 LAFC both have a gripe, but this is pretty good.
Yeah, I would say the other clubs that would have a little gripe is Chicago, but it's hard to put any group in specifically over any of these teams. And to Doyle's 2018 Red Bull complaint, leaving out 2000 KC was like one of our biggest mistakes on this whole thing, just so we could shoehorn Charlie and Calen into this show. But, we live with what we live with, right?
Yeah,
this is who we are.
I think we all know the 2012 Dynamo would give any of these teams a real game.
No comment.
All right, let's keep it rolling. It's Audi MLS Cup Playoff weeks. Before we get out of here and do a little bit of mailbag and Bundesliga stuff, I just want to pick your brain a little bit, Calen. We did, Doyle did his what makes a great playoff team on the site. We had that conversation with Charlie, but we didn't.
And Calen did that.
Oh, sorry, I forgot you have the
first time. I'm like a de facto columnist.
Oh, you had the byline on that thing?
They didn't give me the byline, but if you go by word count, I'm up in there.
No byline, no credit.
I
That's the way it works.
texted all the Doyle though. We don't. It's real informal. It's like Instagram DMs straight to the column.
That's correct. That is my process. In the last week before vacation, that is my writing process. Calen, unleash a couple of drafts. I gotta put a column up, and then I gotta go sleep by the river.
Yeah. Be careful, because Simon's going to text me to say, hey, you got to fill in for Doyle while he's gone.
Exactly. He's like, oh, I heard you were helping out here. Were you?
All right, let's fast forward.
So what was sleeping by the river? What did that mean?
I'm going to go have palomas in the park.
Got it.
Down by the river.
I was about to say, is this an SNL reference? Is Doyle about to go off the deep end?
Oh boy.
I've already had my SNL reference for the week. Did you see the Ringer article about the Stevie Nicks fajita roundup thing?
No.
It's the best SNL sketch of all time. It's on the Ringer. You should check it out. Anyway,
and that's my cue to keep it rolling here. Calen, tell us about good playoff coaches. Tell us about what makes the difference, man. You can be short, you can be long, you can be somewhere in between.
I'll reference Doyle's article, actually, because I think it's really good. I don't often say that. No, just kidding. But I thought he broke it down into categories well. And it started off with Bruce Arena talking about, like, your best players have to be your best players, and going through some of the history of the best players stepping up in big games. Shout out to Pando Ramirez. I think, like, there is a case for that to happen. And, like, the best coaches also find a way to put their best players in good situations, for sure, and to create systems around them to do that. And that's kind of what we've been talking about when we look at how teams have been successful and how some teams haven't. So I think that's a big part of it. And I look at just like at my coaching history. I mean, some of the best guys that I had were in playoff moments were Juan Carlos Osorio, who took us on a really deep run. And then as well, I know he went to the finals or to MLS Cup with the Red Bulls team, which I think was a surprise, to say the least. So, but as far as like attention to detail, I think there's a sense of belief that you instill within your team. And Dom was also really good. The other one you went through was like flexibility. And I remember from 2011 to 2012, we really transformed as a team, from being a team that really went and just kind of made it ugly at times, to 2012, we actually led the league in possession, and we kept going against Sporting Kansas City in the regular season. And we had so much trouble with them because they play that high press 4-3-3. And we actually changed our entire style and started playing a 4-3-3 to match up man for man with them. And then when we got to the playoffs, we switched back to a 4-4-2. And we recognized at that point in time that we really wanted to get Brad Davis in a good spot and push him over to the wing. And things were changed for us too, because we had brought in Boniek Garcia, and it allowed us to play a little bit differently. So we played a 4-4-2, and Boniek would be able to tuck in and help out in the weak side in the middle. And Brad would be able to find that gap behind Kai Kamara and in front of Chance Myers. And we figured if we can get him in that good spot, and I tended to drift to the left wing and try and pin Chance back and make runs in behind to soften up a little bit of space for Brad Davis. And that was the tactical wrinkle or flexibility that I think Doyle put well, that you have to have some flexibility as well. And we've seen that throughout playoffs, whether it's Greg Vanney and the way he switched it up to the 4-4-2 diamond, leaving the 3-5-2 in MLS Cup. There's been a bunch of changes like that, but ultimately, I think you really have to just you do what you do best. And I think the only other thing that I could say is getting the mix of guys right. That was another piece in the article, and understanding who your players are. So one thing that Dom Kinnear did was he knew every single guy on the team. So before I even got traded to Houston, John Conway had played for Dom in San Jose and was with us in Chicago. And he called John. I've known Dom since I was 18 years old, and I was at Berkeley, and he used to talk to me. But he called John to ask like how I was training, what type of guy I was like, how I was handling myself during preseason, and like did his homework on every single guy before he even got to the team. So by the time he got there, he knew exactly who he had and what type of person and players he was dealing with. So he was able to give us a lot more freedom even off the field than a lot of coaches that I played for, because he knew kind of what he had. So I think there's just so much work that goes into deciding what's a good playoff team, but there is a part of it that our Dynamo teams are able to do, which is peaking at the right time. And that's a harder part to train for. And I know the Galaxy teams and Bruce have been able to do that a lot as well. I still think that's an important part of this league, and the Sounders have been doing it. I think their next challenge is to try and do it consistently, but doing it at the right time. There was just something about our group that when it started to click, when that calendar clicked to August, it was like, all right, we got to start ramping up in September. And then by the time you get to the playoffs, you're ready to go. So I don't know. Those are a bunch of just random thoughts, but that's what
Calen,
yeah.
I have a question. I don't want it to come off as like wrong or disrespectful or whatever.
Great start.
I know. Is there a way in which, though, like a team that, and the Galaxy are a good example, and I think kind of what you're talking with Houston, do you like legitimately take time off during the season to be ready to ramp up? Like, do guys go away during the season in June and May and whatever to like keep yourself okay? Or is it just a different switch of energy and intensity as you get to the end of the season?
Yeah, it's just a different switch. Yeah, it's flipping the switch to recognizing that you don't have any margin for error as you get closer to the playoffs. And look, everybody's holding each other accountable throughout the season and pushing for results and all that. Nobody's like going on vacation or hanging out. It's just more that like there's just so many factors that go with playing in MLS, where you're going and you're going to play up in Vancouver and your flight gets delayed and you're playing on turf and it's tough, or you're playing in altitude here and then you have a quick turnaround or an Open Cup match, or you have so many different things you have to balance throughout the season. And sometimes you get hot. I remember in 2012 actually getting hot almost too early. We went undefeated at home that whole season, but we also I think we had a stretch where we like won 6 in a row or 7 in a row. And it was kind of like, is this too early? It was actually kind of like, I was worried that we were peaking too early, because then if you crash down and you try and get it back for the playoffs, that's hard to do. It's a strange thing, but yeah, this was also a time where I would say the Supporter Shield was not a goal of ours and was not really something that a lot of teams that I played on or around really focused on. It's taken a whole different meaning now. So it really was about winning MLS Cup, and only that. That was really the only, and Open Cup. But even for some clubs, that didn't really exist. So it was really, that's gained an importance as well too. So it was really the measure of success was being good at that time of the season.
Just want to say this is the third week in a row that Calen has referenced the Dynamo's long unbeaten streak at home back in 2012. So good points for consistency there, buddy.
Hey man, good memories just have a way of popping up to the top of your brain. You know, you just got to make sure people remember.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's especially with this group.
Oh boy, let's get into the mailbag real quick. I think we're gonna skip the Bundesliga talk. Everybody's watching it. You're seeing Tyler Adams and Weston McKennie and John Brooks and
Alphonso Davies.
Yeah, guess some people made a pretty good decision. No, I'm just kidding. I won't play the Mount Rushmore card here, which I've been happily trolling people about for the last couple of days.
By the way, let's shout out Carlos Grazo as well, because in terms of what MLS is trying to do, selling on Latin American players, he could end up being big, and he missed most of the year hurt, but he's come back into the lineup for Augsburg, and he's just a destroyer right now. But like Carlos Grazo, probably not even a top 5 MLS D mid, but he got sold for $4 million. He's starting the Bundesliga now. Keep an eye on him as well.
Yeah, I motion to block Doyle's motion to respect Carlos Carrizo on this show.
Wow,
that's the second show in a row that Doyle has mentioned Carlos Carrizo. So
is it
consistent? Hey, some of those good memories that come straight to the top of your head, Doyle. Here's the last one in the mailbag. Thank you to Mike Donovan and everybody else who hit us up with some questions here. This one is: if you had a 5-a-side tournament made up of only current MLS players, by what country they're from, which country would win? We had some initial thoughts here, just beating this around in the pregame or in the pre-show meeting. Brazil I threw out, and we threw it out because of Ilsinho. But if you look around, you're talking Ilsinho, you're talking João Paulo, who was incredible. Doyle's favorite, Eber, could be in this as well. Rosetta we haven't seen play, but obviously he has some quality. Juan, he's got magic in those feet. You don't necessarily have a proven defender, but you could throw Artur in here. Maybe that guy in Orlando that they just signed that we haven't seen play, maybe he could do the job. If you want somebody to just kick the other team, Felipe is here, and he's not bad on the ball either. Any other countries jump out to you?
Yeah, I've got like 18 hipster ones I can throw out there.
Yeah, give me the hipster stuff.
Low key, we're only one player short, but Finland would be Lapalainen, Lode, Raitala, and Alex Ring. That's like a pretty versatile group that can play with the ball. That's like not bad. All time, by the way, this is just current, right?
Yeah, it's current. I'd say we could pull Timu back in here, Timu Tainio, or we could go for the throwback, the Mika Varanen.
Yeah. Won an MLS Cup, so champion. Cups are all that matter. But yeah, so my hipster ones would be Ghana.
Yep.
And then I really like Peru and Venezuela right now.
Who's your Ghana team?
So Harrison Awful, Latif, and Jonathan Mensah are my 3 staples. And then you kind of have to pull from like a David Accam, Abu Danladi after that, which is not as positive. But that top 3, I think, is pretty good.
Owusu in Vancouver.
Yeah, you could take Lawless. I don't know that he's a 5-a-side.
Maybe not a 5. If you have Jonathan,
but
I think we haven't seen Owusu play in the league, but like if you're looking for midfielders on this 5-a-side, I mean, he could be that sort of player. I don't know if he's any good, but
like Latif would crush a 5-a-side, just constant touches everywhere on the field.
Yeah.
And Harrison Awful is one of the most underrated players. But the Venezuela one, you've got Joseph, obviously. You've got Christian Casares, who I'm obsessed with and would fit in a 5-a-side as well. And Junior Moreno, who I think is maybe the most underrated player in MLS. That's like my push. And then you've got a few young DPs that you can throw in on the backside as your other 2 guys. So that's some of them. And then Peru, you've got Flores and Raul Rui Diaz with the fullback from San Jose, whose name escapes me, and Alex
Marcos
Cayens
Lopez
as well.
Marcos Lopez.
Can I throw out Mexico? Because that's, I mean, come on, you have Vela, you have Dos Santos, Jonah, you have Jonah, you have Rodolfo Pizarro, who we've kind of forgotten about because Miami have only played 2 games in their history, and that kind of faded off.
Chicharito.
But then you could go Fierro in the back, Polito could come off the bench or something for you.
Alanis in the back. Fierro's a winner.
Yeah. Sorry, my bad.
Right? That's the one thing. You got to have a goalkeeper for this, right?
No.
You just play
small goals.
You can only go on the ground.
No, but then that changes where you might not need a striker. You just need. I would just pick 5 midfielders in that case.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
Pass it into the goal.
Yeah.
That's not 5. That's not a proper 5-a-side. You got to pick a goalkeeper. I think Cisniega from Mexico, right?
Yeah, and they got the kid in Nashville now, the Zendejas. So if you're going Mexico, Zendejas could jump in there too. How about this? How about
Richie Sanchez? Don't disrespect Richie Sanchez.
That's fair.
Former Liga MX starter.
I'm not trying to disrespect anybody here. He's a World Cup winner. Youth World Cup counts the same, somewhat similar.
Colombia
would be good.
Colombia's a strong one.
You go with Manotas. You got Chara. You've got
that's West.
Both Charas if you want.
That's a good one.
I mean, obviously Dyrone. So
obviously
that's a big one for you there. Cool. You know, you can't avoid that one. I mean, if it's playoffs 5-a-side, you got to go Dyrone. Eddie Segura. How about US? Who would be the US 5-a-side out of MLS right now? Who are you taking? I mean, I think you have to have Darlington.
Yeah.
Probably Josie.
Yes.
Pomacall.
Yeah, I would say Paxton as well.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think who's the best defender in this situation. Like, is it an Aaron Long who has midfield reps? And I mean, you don't need like his ground covering necessarily,
but he has good feet.
Yeah, probably Aaron Long. Yep. And then you need one more. Is it? Like,
do we need a goalkeeper? Is this the thing we're doing? Are we on Calen's rules?
I mean, you would have taken.
I'm not watching this if it's to pug goals. Like, not tuning in.
Calen, I would argue I could get you to watch anything right now.
That's fair.
On your transistor TV with your rabbit ears in your basement.
Yeah, it's rough out here.
Yeah,
just wrap them up in some aluminum foil. Make sure you get the.
What's my Canada team besides Oso?
I mean, Oso, you got to start with Osorio. I would love to see.
Oh, Cavallini, I guess now.
Mark Anthony K for sure.
Yeah, Mark Anthony K.
Yep.
Is Kamal Miller getting in this?
I don't think so. I love the kid Raposo from Vancouver. I know he's only played one game, but he just like there's going to be some really, really good players who came out of this draft. Like Raposa is going to be one of them, and he's going to rep Canada.
This is probably where we was going to try and cut us off. You know what I learned today? Andy Rose is Australian. Didn't even know that.
Hey, you didn't know that?
Nope. Thought he was just British.
Nope. Australian.
Yeah, he's
Australian.
one of Calen's people. I didn't know that.
Oh, Richie Larea for Canada.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, Richie Larea. That you put him in there.
Oh, yeah.
Can we put 2016 Raheem Edwards in there? The original hype train.
I'm ready for the Raheem-assance. Like he's going to come back. He's going to find playing time somewhere. It's going to work.
Well, he's a wingback, and now everyone plays with wingback.
Yeah,
right.
So he just needs to find the right team.
I'm going back to Colombia. That's my side. All right, I've got Eddie Segura in the back. I'm taking Darwin Quintero because he's sick in small spaces for sure. Then we have Mauro Manotas scoring goals, just poaching up top. Diego Chara just stopping everything, and Atuesta. That's the best five.
Yeah, that's a pretty good team. I think I would put my Mexico team up against that one. And there's got to be an American one, but I just don't know if the American one has like the high end, the attacking talent that they do.
We've probably done this wrong because we didn't make an Argentina one, right?
Oh, that's true.
And I
There's
assume
too many to go through, to be honest.
there are too many to go through. An Argentina one would be Sebastian Blanco, Gustavo Bo.
You throw
maybe Tati Castellanos, depending on how you want to play. Figal at
Figal would be good. Pavone is maybe less effective without the open space, but still filthy.
Maxi Morales, 100%.
Yeah,
it's all number 10. It's the most Argentinian team ever. It's all number 10s and one center back with long hair who fouls a lot.
Have you guys tried to do the England? Have you tried to do the England team for fun?
Does Louis Binks get in?
Go through the list. It's a lot of Let's see who's on here. You would definitely need Nedum in the back.
Mm-hmm.
Jack Elliott.
Yep.
I mean, BWP.
BWP.
No, there's no one else in the league right now.
I don't know. I'm going Cameroon, and I'm just going 5 new who's.
No Adams. I forgot no Adams.
Now that we've gotten to the 5 new who reference, I think it's probably time to get out of here. Thank you guys for hanging out on this Thursday. Had a great time.
Let's go all time. Let's do South Korea. Put Wong and Bomb with YP Lee. Get me a jersey. Let's go.
Perfect. You're all about the Vancouver jersey bit. It's your bit, dude.
It's not a bit, dude. I got one up. They're dope jerseys. They make a good jersey. They should win more things, so it's cooler to wear them.
That's fair. All right. That's it for us. Big thanks to these guys. Thank you to Anders for doing his thing. Carlos, our audio engineer, we should thank him more. Oh, Efra Alvarez. Yeah, Efra Alvarez on that Mexico team, which Anders just threw out here. That's pretty good, too.
Ooh.
That's pretty fun. But, hey, thank you to Continental as well for making extra time a possibility. We'll let you know if any news comes out and, of course, discuss it as it refers to MLS coming back. With that, enjoy your weekend, everybody. Enjoy a drink or two if you're of age. Relax. Get your mind right.
Freedom
Vacation
Festival.
Doyle.